Imagine this. It's a moonlit night on the French Riviera, and behind the wrought-iron gates of a secluded mansion, some of the world's wealthiest individuals are seated around a long, candle-lit table. A waiter quietly pours a vintage wine that costs more than a luxury car. But this isn't just a dinner party. This is an ultra-exclusive gathering of one of the world's most secretive clubs. A place where billionaires make deals that will shape the future of industries, governments, and even global economies. The catch? Membership to this shadowy elite circle isn't just about wealth. It's about power, lineage, and a mysterious set of criteria that even money can't buy. But how did these secret clubs come to exist? And what really happens behind closed doors? To answer that, we have to go back to the beginning, when exclusivity and influence first collided to form the ultimate status symbols for the ultra-wealthy. For centuries, exclusivity has been the ultimate currency of the elite, but the secret clubs of the ultra-wealthy take this to an entirely different level. These aren't just groups formed by chance or common interest. Their origins are steeped in history, secrecy, and an obsession with power. It all started in the late 18th century, when aristocrats in Europe began forming exclusive societies, originally as a way to escape the scrutiny of the rising middle class. Take the Club des Chevaliers, for example. Founded in 1784, it was rumored to have included monarchs, banking magnates, and even prominent scientists of the time. Membership wasn't simply about wealth. It required lineage, influence, and the right connections, qualities that created a web of power spanning continents. As the Industrial Revolution reshaped the global economy, these clubs began to evolve. By the early 20th century, America's wealthiest tycoons, think Rockefellers and Carnegies, started forming their own secret societies, mirroring the exclusivity of their European counterparts. These weren't just social gatherings, they became the incubators for deals that would build empires, monopolies, and legacies. Fast forward to today, and the concept of exclusivity has reached new heights. The ultra-wealthy no longer want clubs that anyone with money can join. They crave something beyond even their peers. And, in the 21st century, a new wave of secret societies was born, blending tradition with modern-day mystique. But then, in the early 2000s, a shift occurred that would redefine what it meant to be truly exclusive. A new breed of clubs emerged, one so secret that their existence is barely acknowledged. And it was here that the idea of membership you can't buy came to life, creating a new frontier of status and power. The turning point. The early 2000s marked a pivotal moment for secret societies of the ultra-wealthy. With globalization accelerating and the rise of technology creating new billionaires seemingly overnight, the old systems of exclusivity were no longer enough. Traditional private clubs, like the famed Bohemian Grove or the Bilderberg Group, while still revered, were becoming too visible, too predictable. The truly elite wanted something new, something that couldn't be accessed, even with millions in the bank. The shift began in Silicon Valley, where tech titans started organizing closed-door retreats. These gatherings weren't advertised, and invitations were extended through a whisper network of mutual trust. One such event, rumored to have taken place in 2004, is said to have laid the groundwork for what these modern clubs would become. A handful of founders from the world's top companies convened in an undisclosed location, not just to discuss technology, but to forge alliances that would extend far beyond their industries. At the same time, luxury concierge services, like Quintessentially and the Billionaires Club, were exploding in popularity. But for a certain tier of ultra-wealthy, even these bespoke services felt generic. Enter the concept of invitation-only clubs that offered not just networking, but true influence. Membership wasn't purchased. It was earned through a combination of discretion, power, and a nod from someone already inside. One such club, rumored to have been founded in 2006, is now the stuff of legend, known only as The Circle. Its origins are shrouded in mystery. Stories suggest that its founders included heirs to old money dynasties, tech moguls, and an enigmatic billionaire financier. The purpose of The Circle was clear: create a group so exclusive that even discussing its existence was forbidden. And with this secretive approach, these clubs began to thrive. What started as informal gatherings soon evolved into highly organized entities with strict codes of conduct, elaborate rituals, and unprecedented influence. They were no longer just meeting places. They became the architects of global power. These new secret clubs would soon grow to wield more wealth, power, and influence than their founders could have ever imagined. As the ultra-wealthy began redefining what it meant to be exclusive, their clubs rapidly evolved. No longer satisfied with opulent lounges or private estates, these groups started hosting their gatherings in locations as secretive as their membership lists. Private islands, decommissioned military bunkers, and even yachts anchored in international waters became the venues for these ultra-exclusive events. Take Echelon, a club reportedly founded in 2010 by some of the wealthiest individuals in tech and finance. Its members were said to include hedge fund managers, luxury brand moguls, and a few reclusive tech billionaires. What made Echelon unique was its purpose, not merely to network, but to reshape industries and even influence geopolitics. Members weren't just trading stock tips or making business deals, they were aligning strategies that could move markets and shift global economies. By the mid-2010s, these clubs were no longer just about exclusivity. They became engines of influence. Philanthropy became a favored disguise, with members pooling resources to fund massive initiatives under the radar. But behind the veneer of good intentions, these clubs continue to operate as shadowy powerhouses, their reach extending further into media, politics, and even culture. One of the most intriguing aspects of these ultra-exclusive clubs is the mystery surrounding their inner workings. Unlike traditional organizations, these clubs often eschew formal structures in favor of cryptic rituals and unwritten rules. For instance, the Circle is rumored to require new members to complete a series of secret challenges designed to test their loyalty, discretion, and willingness to prioritize the group above all else. Another club, known only as Peregrine, allegedly incorporates ancient rituals into its meetings, blending elements of Freemasonry, Hermeticism, and modern-day psychology. The secrecy is not just for mystique, it's a power play. The less the public knows, the greater the club's ability to influence from the shadows. Perhaps the most tantalizing aspect of these groups is their ability to maintain secrecy in the digital age. Despite their influence, leaks are rare. This is no accident. Members are often required to sign non-disclosure agreements so stringent that even mentioning the club outside its walls can result in legal or social consequences. The fear of exclusion from these circles is often enough to ensure silence. By the late 2010s, these secret clubs had reached a level of power and exclusivity that their founders could scarcely have imagined. They weren't just influencing individual industries, they were shaping the course of entire economies. Members of these groups often find themselves at the helm of the biggest decisions of our time, whether it's negotiating international trade agreements, orchestrating mergers of mega corporations, or even directing the course of global philanthropy. Consider the infamous Summit on the Sky, an event held in 2018 on a luxury jet outfitted for 30 of the most influential individuals in the world. The meeting was said to have determined the future of several key global industries, from renewable energy to AI development. Though details remain scarce, its outcomes are still being felt in boardrooms and governments today. At their peak, these clubs had transcended their roots as simple networking opportunities. They had become the ultimate arbiters of power and influence, with memberships that open doors most people don't even know exist. By the mid-2020s, the secret clubs of the ultra-wealthy had reached their zenith. These organizations weren't just symbols of exclusivity, they were institutions of power, quietly shaping the modern world. To the average person, their influence was invisible, but to those in the know, their reach was undeniable. At their peak, clubs like the Circle and Echelon operated with a precision that made them nearly untouchable. Their gatherings were more than just meetings. They were orchestrated events designed to push their agendas on a global scale. Members weren't simply wealthy individuals, they were visionaries, empire builders, and in some cases, shadow rulers of industries and governments. What made these clubs unique was not just their secrecy, but their ability to transcend wealth. Membership required something even the richest people couldn't buy: power, vision, and trust from those already within. Their events were the stuff of legend. One particularly infamous meeting, dubbed the Summit of Shadows, was said to have been held in a decommissioned Cold War bunker in Switzerland. Attendees reportedly included leaders in finance, technology, and politics, all gathered to strategize on matters ranging from artificial intelligence to global market shifts. What made this gathering extraordinary wasn't just its secrecy, but its outcomes. Within months, mergers, acquisitions, and regulatory changes rippled across industries, all pointing back to decisions made at that summit. Beyond their influence, these clubs represented the ultimate in exclusivity. They were rumored to employ technologies like biometric scans and encrypted communications just to ensure members could access their events safely. Security was so tight that even rumors about these clubs rarely made it into the public domain. Membership lists were a closely guarded secret, adding an air of mystique that made their power all the more compelling. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of their peak was their ability to balance influence with discretion. While individual members could be found on lists of the world's richest and most powerful, the clubs themselves operated in near total anonymity. To this day, their influence is felt in markets, industries, and governments, but their names remain whispers in the halls of power. As their reach expanded, the tension began to build. When organizations wield this much influence, cracks inevitably start to form. And for these secret clubs, those cracks were about to widen into fractures that would challenge everything they had built. For years, these secret clubs of the ultra-wealthy seemed untouchable, operating behind veils of discretion and layers of impenetrable secrecy. But the very systems that allowed them to thrive, whisper networks, encrypted communications, and absolute trust among members, would become their greatest vulnerabilities. In 2022, whispers began to circulate about a high-profile scandal involving one of the most influential secret clubs, Echelon. A disgruntled former member who had been quietly ousted for breaking one of the group's ironclad rules began leaking details to investigative journalists. At first, the claims seemed too outlandish to believe. Rumors of clandestine meetings determining global policy, financial manipulation, and even involvement in shaping government elections. But as documents and encrypted messages began to surface, it became clear that there was more truth to the allegations than anyone had anticipated. The tipping point came in 2023, when a coordinated investigation by several major news outlets revealed a series of suspicious market activities that could be traced back to a few key members of Echelon. Governments took notice, and what followed was a series of high-profile investigations that sent shockwaves through the elite circles. Subpoenas were issued, assets were frozen, and for the first time, the public got a glimpse into the shadowy world of these secret societies. What made the downfall even more dramatic was the betrayal from within. A leaked video from a private meeting showed several prominent members discussing strategies to suppress competition, manipulate global supply chains, and avoid scrutiny. The footage went viral, sparking public outrage and prompting calls for accountability. Suddenly, the anonymity these clubs had depended on for decades began to crumble. By late 2023, the fallout had reached a boiling point. Multiple members of Echelon and other secret societies were implicated in legal battles that dragged their names, and the names of their clubs, into the spotlight. For organizations built on trust and secrecy, the exposure was catastrophic. Memberships dwindled, alliances fractured, and the once mighty clubs began to implode under the weight of public scrutiny and internal betrayal. It was a dramatic and emotional climax, the point at which these organizations, long seen as untouchable, finally faced consequences for their unchecked power. Yet, for many, the question remained: was this truly the end of their influence, or just the beginning of a new chapter in their evolution? In the aftermath of the public exposure and legal battles, the once mighty secret clubs of the ultra-wealthy were left in disarray. Echelon, once the epitome of power and discretion, officially disbanded in 2024, While some of its former members quietly retreated into obscurity, others faced prolonged legal battles, with a handful even serving time for financial crimes uncovered during the investigations. The Circle, another major player in the world of clandestine elites, survived in name but splintered into smaller, less influential factions. The ripple effects of the scandal reshaped the world of the ultra-wealthy. Many high-net-worth individuals sought to distance themselves from the tarnished legacy of these secret societies, instead opting for more transparent forms of influence through philanthropy and public-facing initiatives. The allure of exclusivity, once the ultimate status symbol, began to lose its shine under the harsh light of scrutiny. Yet, as history has shown time and again, the idea of exclusivity and secrecy among the elite is far from dead. Rumors persist of new, even more elusive organizations rising in the shadows, adopting lessons from their predecessors' mistakes. These groups are said to rely on cutting-edge technology and even greater discretion to ensure their existence remains undetectable. For the average person, the downfall of these secret clubs served as a fleeting moment of vindication, a rare glimpse into the machinations of the world's most powerful people. But while their influence may have waned, their legacy endures. The idea that wealth alone is not enough, that true power lies in the ability to control and shape the unseen, continues to captivate and terrify in equal measure. In the end, the story of the secret clubs of the ultra-wealthy is both a cautionary tale and a chilling reminder of how influence can be wielded in the shadows. While their fall exposed their flaws, it also hinted at their resilience, leaving us to wonder how many secrets still remain hidden, waiting to be uncovered.